Recent events between the United States and China are causing a lot of trouble. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken went to China to try to make things better. But the very next day, President Biden called the leader of China, Xi Jinping, a dictator at a political event. This caused a big fuss in the media. It made headlines in the United States, but more importantly, it made China very angry. And guess what? China is not happy. The Wall Street Journal is warning that Cuba is helping China spy on the United States. Things are getting even more complicated. So where is all of this going? The United States doesn't have a clear plan when it comes to dealing with China. They're against China becoming a powerful player on the global stage, but their actual actions and policies are all over the place. Remember when the Secretary of State scolded the Chinese in Anchorage, Alaska? Yeah, that didn't go well. The Chinese made it very clear that they didn't like being talked to like that. And things have been a wild ride ever since. We keep seeing a strange pattern of leaders saying one thing and doing another. They talk about wanting to talk to China and improve relations, but then something always messes it up. It's like a never-ending cycle of broken promises. And let's not forget the strange incident with a supposed weather balloon that turned out to be a spy balloon. Talk about a crazy twist. So let's be honest here. This whole diplomatic situation is a circus. It's getting more and more ridiculous. We need to demand better from our leaders. We need a clear and effective approach to dealing with other countries. We can't just let this continue. The world is changing, and we need leaders who understand what's at stake and can handle the complexities of international relations. Let's be real, everyone. It seems like nobody is really in control of this relationship. Things are getting dangerous with all the conflicts in the South China Sea and Strait of Taiwan. People are losing trust in American leaders who are supposed to act responsibly. Now let's hear from some news sources outside of the United States to get a better understanding. Media in Singapore is pointing out the unexpected tensions between Beijing and Washington. They think President Biden's remarks were silly and provocative. Comparing Xi Jinping to a dictator? People can't believe it. It feels like we've been here before with Hillary Clinton's controversial, deplorable comment. Haven't they learned from that? We need to think about how the Chinese see all of this. It's important to understand their perspective. Diplomacy is delicate, and every mistake has consequences. President Biden talking about a spy balloon and how embarrassed Xi Jinping must have been only making things worse. Now let's take a step back and think about what all of this means. The relationship between the US and China is at a critical point, and it's up to us to demand better. We need leaders who prioritize talking, working together, and understanding each other. The stakes are high, and mistakes can have serious consequences. It's time for both sides to pause, reevaluate, and find common ground. Only then can we move towards a future where we cooperate and work together. During a fundraising event in California, President Biden made a not-so-smart move. Biden said it's a great embarrassment for dictators. He called Xi Jinping a dictator and talked about a balloon incident. Now that's not a great way to make things better and reduce tensions. The Chinese won't see it as just a mistake. They'll think it shows how Biden really feels about them. It's like he's showing off to his donors, and that's not a good thing. But here's the sad part. After Blinken's visit, there was some hope in China. People thought maybe things were getting better, that there was progress. They were proud that China didn't give in to American bullying. But Biden's thoughtless remarks destroyed that hope, just like a popped balloon. It's clear that Biden says what he really thinks when he feels relaxed. He thinks he can say whatever he wants without considering the consequences. In formal situations, he sticks to the plan, but behind closed doors, his true intentions come out. And let's be honest, American politicians and business people are openly hostile toward China. They can't hide it. There's a deep fear underlying all of this, the fear of losing power. The United States sees China's growing influence in the world as a threat to its own position at the top. This fear drives them to act in confusing and contradictory ways. Then, President Biden spoke at a private event and revealed his true feelings. He talked about Japan's military budget and seemed to support their show of military strength. But wasn't Japan on the side of Nazi Germany during World War II? It's definitely a surprising statement. But the real shocker came when Biden mentioned the balloon incident. He proudly claimed that they shot down a balloon that supposedly had spy equipment, and he said Xi Jinping didn't know about it. That's just being really arrogant and full of pride. It's like he's bragging about embarrassing a dictator. Not the best move if you want to mend relationships and work together. It's clear that the United States is struggling to accept China's rise. They want everyone to do things their way and protect their own interests. But China has reached a point where they don't need to follow America's lead anymore, and that drives the American elites crazy. On the other hand, the Chinese would be happy to go back to a time when the relationship was more cooperative. They understand that each country has its own interests, and they believe in finding ways to work together. But it's the United States that has changed the game. Their hostile attitude and desire for dominance have strained the relationship. Now let's talk about something important. The United States doesn't seem to understand China very well. American leaders expect the whole world to be like them, with the same ideas, systems, and way of life. But China is different. China has its own long history, its own struggles, and its own unique culture in politics and society. Let's take the intense meeting between Wang Yi and Antony Blinken in Anchorage as an example. Wang Yi was honest and direct about the tensions between China and the United States. He criticized Washington for exaggerating the China threat and demanded an end to sanctions and technological suppression. He also pointed out how the United States interferes in China's internal matters like Taiwan, Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Tibet. But when China stands up for itself, the US media calls it hyper-aggressive or bold and assertive. The truth is, China is just protecting its sovereignty and not letting the most powerful military force in the world push it around. But somehow, some people see this as a crime. China's history of fighting for independence and transforming society shouldn't be overlooked. It's unfair to expect China to accept foreign interference quietly. In the 1970s, President Nixon visited China, fostering cooperation and economic development. Initially, some thought China would shift towards capitalism, but it followed its own path. During the 2008 global financial crisis, China showcased its resilience compared to the West. The Obama administration's Asia pivot strategy acknowledged China's refusal to be subordinate, leading to increasing hostility and criticism towards China from the West. American elites are frustrated. Their previous certainty about how China would develop has been shattered. They might feel deceived or betrayed, leading to reckless behavior and a desire to punish China for daring to become stronger and improve the lives of its people. The world is facing challenges that require cooperation, but the US political elites often create conflict instead. In the past, there were witch hunts targeting socialists like the Rosenbergs, fueled by media hysteria. We now see a similar pattern in the new Cold War. China's rapid development impacts the Western capitalist economy, creating a dilemma for the United States. Tensions and the potential conflict over the Taiwan Strait could have catastrophic consequences, affecting supply chains and risking livelihoods. The trade war and tariffs have real effects on everyday Americans, hindering progress and worsening environmental concerns. Military conflicts would put trillions of dollars in U.S. Treasury bonds at risk, highlighting the seriousness of the situation. Diplomatic solutions are crucial to avoid disaster, as seen in the Cuban Missile Crisis during the First Cold War. The United States accuses China of having a spy base in Cuba, highlighting hypocrisy in their own actions. Cuba has faced economic embargoes and hostility from the United States for decades, while the U.S. demands restrictions on China. The U.S. has a network of military bases surrounding China, yet closely monitors China's actions. Cuba should have the right to choose its own allies and protect its national interests, just like the United States claims for Ukraine. The U.S. has a history of military presence and conflicts near China, including bombing Shanghai and occupying Vietnam. Progressive forces must challenge the propaganda war against China and advocate for a fairer future. With that said, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. And if you found this content helpful, give the video a like. See you in the next video. Till then, take care.